And if you went into Yakuza offices, they have kind of on the wall a list of the things that will get you kicked out of the organization. And it's a low bar, but they are no theft, no robbery, no mugging, no using force to actually steal money from people, no sexual assault. Of course, that's not going to go over well with the local populace. Ostensibly, no dealing or using in drugs. And the fifth one is no unnecessary contact with the authorities. And so on some level, because they're not stealing, they're not breaking into people's houses and stealing, and they're not going to rob you on the street. They're not going to snatch your purse. They're not going to make you give up their wallet. And since they're running the red light districts behind there, they did sort of keep the peace in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's no street crime around a Yakuza office. No one's going to sneak. No one's going to steal your purse or mug you in an area where the Yakuza had their offices and had their territories in those days, because before the police could get to you, they'd probably get to you.
So they have a list of things that would get you kicked out. What would be hypothetically on the list of things that were okay for them to take part in?
Extortion and blackmail were always okay.
Okay.
As Takigaki Satoru-san once said to me, he's a retired Yakuza boss who now writes some interesting books. He was like, yeah, if you're doing something so bad that the Yakuza can blackmail you, then you deserve the punishment you get, and that's social justice. That's not a crime.
I mean, that's some interesting, mental gymnastics and moral gymnastics.
Yes, racketeering, collecting protection money. It's like, yeah, we provide a service. If you're in our neighborhood and you have trouble with a customer or rowdy youth, or person next door is too loud, we take care of that for you, and in return for that we ask for a small servicing fee. So some Yakuza groups sort of function like low rent security companies. You paid them a monthly fee, and if you needed them, they were there.
How does one join?
It's easy. You just knock on the door, say, I'd like to join.
I'm assuming they have a vetting process. How structured are they as an organization? I mean, I look at, I joined the U.S. military. It's a structured approach. You're going to do A, B, C, and D. It's going to take this long. This is largely the baseline product that you'll get at the end of that pipeline. I'm curious, how does somebody go from A to Z? A being, outside of the door, getting ready to knock, and Z is you're part of the organization.
It's very militaristic and it's very structured. So, you basically join. You say you want to join, and unless you're bringing something to the table, let's say you have you're a biker gang and you're the head of the gang, and you've proven yourself and you already have a revenue stream, you might be able to join it kind of like an officer level, like you've gone to West Point. You have something to show for yourself.
ROTC, if you will. You've already gone to college.
ROTC. Yeah. You've clearly established yourself in the underworld as a force. I think this is plugging my own book here, but so this is The Last Yakuza, right? And the protagonist of this book was unusual in that his path up was like he was running a sort of right-wing organization, shaking down people in his neighborhood, and it already sort of established people were racketeering to him. And when the local Yakuza group was like, you are infringing on our territory, and basically beat the crap out of him and dissolved his group, he decided that he would join the Inagawa Kai, which also had territory there. And they're like, okay, you have men and you have organizations, so you get to join at an executive level. You're not going to have to do the usual grind. The usual grind is when you join the Yakuza, you spend a year living in the office. And you spend a year living in the office. They give you a place to, they give you an allowance. And then your job is to answer the phone, to cook food for the boss, to follow him around, to learn the decorum and the basics and the rituals of Yakuza life so that you can fit in. And then after your year or so, then they start letting you do tasks like collect interest on loans, maybe evict people from their homes, and they establish yourself. Then you get to go out in the world and, earn money and pay your association dues. That's the classic, from the bottom up of the Yakuza world. There are risks too, and there are ways to move up quickly. One is if there's a gang war in the old days and you go put your life on the line, or you go shoot up the enemy, and you go to jail. When you get out, you get a promotion, and you get back pay for the time that you've been in jail. And one of the strong parts of the Yakuza, and that system has sort of faded away, is if you go to jail for the organization, they look after your family, and not just your family. If you're married, they'll look after your wife and make sure that she's taken care of, and they'll also look after your mistress, because they understand that both of those are important parts of your life.
They're very inclusive. They have a DEI initiative, I can tell.
Very inclusive. They are very sexist, because there's only been maybe one or two female Yakuza in the entire history of the organizations. But
were they successful inside of that organization, or they just happened to be a part of it? Were they able to rise to the top, or just kind of mid-level?
There was one woman in the Yamaguchi-gumi who had a small organization, was fairly successful, but never rose to most groups have a first, second, third tier. I think she was on a fourth tier, but she had her turf and her territory, and she was respected. So it's very rare. I mean, it's a very sexist society. It's sort of set up like this nuclear family where you have the Oyabun, that's the father. Everybody under him is the Kobun, the children, and then you've got older brother and younger brother, and then you have just the low level brothers. Little brothers.
The low-level brothers.
Low-level brothers.
Man, that would suck to be born into that tier.
You can work your way up,
I guess.
How can I help? How can I be useful in ending needless suffering? Do not be afraid of work that has no end.
We have to organize a social movement.
We have an opportunity to lead by example versus just talking, hot air. I think the more people in this fight, the more we grow. Eventually it could change. The people are the ones that can make the change.